My name is Emma. I was married for 15 years. To a man I believed in. To a man I trusted. His name was Logan. He was a soldier. Gone often. Always in uniform. Always on some new mission. I stayed. I raised our children. I worked 2 jobs. I waited. I waited through cold winters, through silent nights, through lonely holidays. But I waited because I believed in him, because I loved him. If this story touches your heart, please like, subscribe, share, and comment below. Your voice helps us reach others who need healing too. The last time he was deployed, he promised it was the final one. He said we would finally live together as a family. I marked the date on the calendar. Red circle, big heart. Logan comes home. But instead of seeing him at the airport, I got a text. It said, "Do not wait up. The locks are changed. The kids are better off with me. I am not coming back." I sat on the kitchen floor, the message in my hand, my heart pounding, my breath frozen. The man I waited for had erased me with one cold message. My children were at school. They did not know yet. They would ask, "When is Daddy coming home?" And I would have no answer. For 3 hours, I did not move. I just sat there, staring at the screen, reading his words again and again. My fingers shook, not from fear, from betrayal. I opened the kitchen drawer, took out the small key, the one that opened our memory box. Inside were our wedding photos, the love letters he wrote during training, the ultrasound pictures, the birthday cards, the necklace he gave me on our 10th anniversary. It all felt fake now, cheap, like props in a play I never agreed to. That night, I called my sister. I told her everything. She said, "Come stay with me." But I said no. This was my house, my home, my children's home. If Logan wanted a war, he would get one, but not the kind with shouting and chaos. No, I would fight with grace, with law, with truth. I called a lawyer the next morning. Her name was Claire Benson. Sharp, precise, no nonsense. I met her in her office in the city. I showed her the message. I told her about the silent bank accounts, the missing savings, the strange phone calls from work. She listened. Then she looked me in the eyes and said, "You have a case, and we are going to build it." I did not cry, not then, because something inside me had shifted. The woman who waited, she was gone. What rose in her place was someone new, someone strong, someone ready. It started with a phone bill. The day after I met with the lawyer, I sat at the dining table. Old papers were spread everywhere. Bank statements, loan details, receipts from stores I had never stepped inside. I opened our phone records, line by line, number by number. One name kept showing up. Blocked, private, late at night, calls at 1:14 a.m., 2:36 a.m., sometimes twice in a row. Who was she? I followed the trail. I asked the phone company to help me trace the number. They gave me a name, Kristen Bell, a name I had never heard, but now it echoed in my chest. I searched her online. It did not take long. She was real. She had a Facebook page. Her profile picture? Taken in a Jeep. My husband's Jeep. He was not even trying to hide it. If you have ever felt the sting of betrayal, please like, subscribe, share, and comment below. Your story matters, and you are not alone. She worked at a bar just off the base. The kind of place Logan always said he hated. Too loud, too dark, he once told me. But now I saw her smile, under those neon bar lights, wearing his jacket, his favorite cap. My hands shook as I scrolled. Photo after photo. His boots. His watch. His arm around her waist. A stranger had taken my place, and he was proud to show it. I sat back, closed my eyes, tried to remember the last time he touched me like that. I couldn't, not even on his last visit. He had been quiet, distracted, too tired to talk. Now I knew why. This was not a mistake. It was a life he had been building behind my back. He changed the locks. He moved his money. He wrote that cruel message. But Kristen? She was the final cut. Later that night, I told Claire. I showed her the pictures, the posts, the phone calls. She nodded, took notes, then looked up. We are going to request all his financial transfers. She said, if he gave her money, used joint accounts, moved funds, we will find it. Claire was calm. I was not, but I was learning to be. Over the next few days, I stayed quiet. I still made breakfast. I still dropped the kids at school. I still paid bills. But inside me, a fire was growing. One evening, I picked up my daughter's backpack. Inside was a photo she had drawn. It was our family, for people. Me, her brother, and Logan. He was holding hands with someone else. A stick figure with long red hair. Kristen had red hair. I almost dropped the paper. Sweetheart, I asked gently, who is this? She looked at me, innocent. I met her. She was with Daddy last weekend. She bought us pizza. My heart cracked again. So, he had introduced her, like I did not exist. I thanked my daughter. I hugged her. I told her. She drew beautifully. Then I went into my room, closed the door, and let the tears fall. Not because of Kristen, not even because of Logan, but because I had trusted him to protect their hearts. And instead, he fed them lies and pizza. The next morning, I woke up early. I wrote a letter to myself. It said, you were not stupid. You were loyal. You believed in him. But now, you must believe in yourself. I folded it, put it in my drawer. It became my anchor, because from that moment on, this story was not about him. It was about me. I kept that letter in my drawer. Every morning, I read it, not aloud, just with my eyes. But I let every word sink in. You must believe in yourself. And I did, a little more each day. I stopped checking his social media. I stopped asking, why her? The answers did not matter anymore. I had children to protect, a life to rebuild, and I was not going to do it with tears. I was going to do it with action. Claire, my lawyer, called a week later. We found something, she said. Logan had opened a new bank account, without my name on it. He had been moving money little by little for nearly 8 months. 8 months! That meant even during his last visit, even when he kissed our daughter's forehead goodnight, he was planning his exit. Claire filed a motion. We froze his access to the joint account. She told me we would request full custody, especially after what our daughter shared. I want you to start documenting everything, Claire said. Write down every time he calls, every word he says to the kids. We are going to show the court who he really is. So I did. I bought a small black notebook, and I wrote everything down. He called once that week. He asked to see the children. I said no. He raised his voice, said I was turning them against him, that I was making this ugly. I stayed calm. I told him he could speak to my lawyer. He hung up. The next day, he sent a long email, full of half-truths, blaming me, telling me I had failed him as a wife, that I had changed. Yes, I had changed. I was no longer begging, no longer bending. I did not reply. Instead, I read the email again. Then I printed it, highlighted the threats, added it to the folder for court. At night, after the kids were asleep, I sat by the window, lights off, candle burning, notebook in hand. Some nights, I wrote about him. Some nights, I wrote about myself. The version of me before the betrayal, the woman I had buried to keep our marriage alive. She was quiet, soft, full of hope, but she was gone now, and I did not want her back. Not like that. One evening, my son walked into the room. He rubbed his eyes, asked if he could sit with me. I nodded. He curled up beside me. Small, warm, safe. Mom, he whispered, why does Daddy not live here anymore? I looked at him. His eyes were so honest, so open. I said, because sometimes people make choices that hurt others. But that hurt is not your fault. You are loved, so very loved. He nodded. Then he said something I will never forget. I am glad you are the one still here. I kissed the top of his head, held him close, and for the first time in weeks, I cried. But this time, it was not out of weakness. It was relief. It was love. It was the strength of holding on and letting go at the same time. That night, I lit a new candle, lavender, peaceful, and I made a decision. The next day, I would speak to Claire, not just about court, but about everything I deserved, and everything Logan had taken from me. This was not about revenge. It was about respect, not just from him, but from myself. And I was ready to claim it. The next morning, I called Claire. I want to move forward. I said, I want full custody. I want to protect what is mine. Her voice was steady. You are doing the right thing, Emma. We met that afternoon. She brought papers. Thick, heavy, cold with legal language. We discussed court dates, asset tracing, witness statements. But what struck me most was how calm I felt. Not numb, not broken, clear, like I had walked through fire and stepped out, smoke still on my skin, but standing. Claire paused before I left. There is one more thing, she said. She handed me a file. I had my investigator run a deeper search. You need to see this. I opened it. Inside were photos, not just of Kristen, but of Logan at a second apartment with Kristen and another woman. I stared. He had not just built a new life. He had built several. One with Kristen, one with someone else. She had children too, little ones. In one photo, he was helping a boy tie his shoes. In another, he was holding a baby, smiling, completely at ease. I could not speak. The world tilted. For a moment, everything felt unreal. Claire said, quietly, I believe they may have lived together during his last deployment. My stomach turned. He had told me he was training overseas. He had sent pictures of sand, barracks, meals in a tent. Now, I realized those could have been from years ago, from someone else's life. He had not just cheated, he had crafted lies with care. He had erased me and replaced me twice. I went home in silence. I did not cry, not then. Instead, I sat at the table, laid out the photos, one by one. I looked at them. I saw him smiling, holding someone else's baby, looking like the man I used to know. But he was not mine, not anymore. Maybe he never really was. That night, I made dinner for the kids, mac and cheese, their favorite. We sat on the floor and watched cartoons. I laughed with them, not fake laughter, real, free, because suddenly I understood something. Logan had not destroyed me. He had freed me from illusions, from waiting, from wondering when love would feel like love again. I went to bed with a clear mind, no nightmares, no bitterness, just truth. The next morning, I received a message from Logan's lawyer. He was asking for joint custody. He wanted access to the house. He wanted my silence. But he was not going to get it. Claire filed the official response. She attached the photos. She attached his emails. She added a witness list. We requested full custody. We requested spousal support. We froze the remaining assets. I did not want war, but I wanted justice. I wanted my name back, my peace, my place in my children's future. When Logan heard about the court filings, he called me. I let it ring. He called again. This time I answered. His voice was tight. I see you have been busy. I stayed quiet. You are making this harder than it needs to be, he said. I replied, no, Logan, I am making it fair. He went silent. Then he said, you are angry. I shook my head, even though he could not see. No, not angry, just awake. And I ended the call. That evening, I went outside. The air was cold. The stars were sharp and bright. I wrapped a blanket around myself and sat on the porch. I thought of all the nights I waited for him, worried, lonely, hopeful, but not anymore. Now, I was waiting for no one, and somehow that felt like peace. The court date arrived. A cold Monday morning. Gray clouds. No sun. I woke early, dressed in quiet strength. Black blazer. Neat hair. Soft makeup. I looked in the mirror, not to check my face, but to meet my eyes. You are ready? I said, and I was. Claire met me at the courthouse. She handed me the file. Thick, prepared, solid. You do not have to say much today, she told me. But if you want to speak, you can. I nodded. I would decide when the time came. The courtroom was quiet, carpeted floors, wooden benches, everything clean, polished, controlled. Then I saw him, Logan, my husband. He sat across the room, not in uniform, just a suit, new haircut, tired eyes. He did not look at me. I looked at him, just for a second, and then I looked away. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the hearing began. Claire stood first. She spoke with calm force. She gave dates, documents, photos, text messages. She told the court about the bank account, the false deployment, the second woman, the time he spent away from the children. Logan's lawyer spoke next. He tried to paint me as emotional, said I was trying to punish Logan. He asked the judge to consider a fair split. Fair? I had spent years waiting, raising the children, managing the house, trusting a man who lied in layers. But I stayed quiet, because this moment was not about revenge. It was about truth. Then the judge looked at me. Would you like to speak, Mrs. Alden? I stood. My legs were steady, my voice soft but clear. I do not want to make this personal. I began, but it is personal, because this is my life, my children's lives. I paused. For years, I supported Logan. I waited. I worked. I stayed faithful. I looked across the room. He was still staring down. I continued, but Logan chose someone else. Not just one person, multiple lives, multiple lies. I took a breath. I am not asking for revenge. I am asking for protection, for my home, for my children, for our peace. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Alden. I sat down. Claire gave my hand a quiet squeeze. After that, Things moved quickly. More documents. More testimony. Then the judge spoke. He granted me full physical custody. Logan would get supervised visits. Twice a month. The house remained mine. The accounts were frozen. Support payments were scheduled. It was done. Signed. Stamped. Final. Logan finally looked at me. But I did not feel rage, or hate, or even sadness. I felt peace. Outside the courthouse, the wind had picked up. Leaves danced along the sidewalk. Claire smiled. "You were brilliant," she said. I smiled back. I was just honest. I went home. Alone. But not empty. The children were with my sister that day. I sat in the living room. Quiet. Still. Safe. I pulled out the black notebook. The one with every detail. Every hurt. I flipped to the last page. And I wrote. Today, I stood up for myself. Today, I was not afraid. Today, I chose peace. Then I closed the notebook, set it on the shelf, and breathed. That night, I cooked dinner. Simple rice and chicken. The children came home, full of stories. Laughter. Noise. Life. As I tucked them into bed, my daughter asked, "Did you win today, Mommy?" I paused, then kissed her forehead. I did not win, baby. I chose what was right, and that is better than winning. She smiled, closed her eyes. I turned off the light and walked into a future that finally felt mine. The house feels different now. Not just quieter, not just cleaner, lighter, like something heavy has been lifted from the air. It has been 2 months since the court hearing. 2 months since I stood in front of the judge and chose myself. I do not wake up with panic anymore. I do not wonder where Logan is, or who he is with. I do not check messages in the middle of the night. I do not rehearse what I should have said. I just breathe. I just live. And that is enough. I bought a new journal. Not for court notes. Not for pain. For dreams. I write 1 page every morning. Sometimes just 1 sentence. Sometimes more. Yesterday, I wrote, "I am no longer waiting to be loved the way I deserve." I read it twice. Let it settle in me. Because for years, I lived in the shadows of his silence. I walked on eggshells, made myself smaller, so he could feel big. I excused his distance. I explained his coldness. I forgave what he never even admitted. But now, I have no more apologies left. Not for loving too much. Not for trusting too deeply. Not for hoping too long. I take walks now. Every morning. The kids ride their bikes ahead of me. Their laughter fills the streets. It feels like music. I sit on a bench and watch the trees sway. The wind brushes my cheek like a kind hand, and I whisper, "Thank you," not to anyone, just to life, to whatever is listening. Logan still sends messages. Sometimes they are cold. Sometimes they are full of regret. I read them. Then I close the app. Because I have nothing to say. Not anymore. I have already spoken my truth. In court. In my journal. In every choice I make now. I see other women, sometimes. At school drop-offs. In the store. In the mirror. And I wonder, how many of us are hiding behind smiles? How many of us are waiting to feel seen? Heard? Loved? I want to tell them. You do not have to stay in a story that hurts you. You are allowed to rewrite it, even if it is messy, even if it is painful, even if you are scared. Because on the other side of fear, there is freedom. My children are changing too. They are laughing more, asking deeper questions, resting in the safety of a mother who is no longer afraid. My daughter draws again. Her stick figures now have capes. She says they are heroes. She made one of me. Because you saved us, she said. I smiled. But I did not correct her. Because maybe I did. Not in one moment, but in 1,000 quiet choices. In every time I said, this ends with me. Now, I do not wait for approval. I do not wait for the apology. That may never come. Because I have forgiven myself. And that is the kind of peace no one can take. Tonight, I will light a candle, the lavender one. I will sit by the window, and I will write one more page. It will say, he broke my trust, but he did not break me. I lost him, but I found myself. Then I will close the journal, tuck my children in, turn off the lights, and sleep without fear. Because the story is no longer about him. It is about me, and I am finally free.